First and foremost, thank you everybody for coming. Great to see all of you again today. Appreciate all the coverage. Appreciate you supporting our program. Appreciate all the guys that came out to Ball State as well, and you made the trip out to Muncie. That meant a lot to our program. So, Larry, really appreciate that, and Brian, meant a lot. Corey, I appreciate you being there. So that's really cool stuff when you guys start traveling and go on the road 3-4 hours away. It means a lot to our program. So, thank you. I do want to start by saying congratulations, Chicago Cubs. Yep. Everybody okay? All right. No more goat, just row the boat, right? So how about that one, Al, right? But, you know, being from Chicago, it's just phenomenal. So if you got a chance to watch that baseball game, I know it has nothing to do with football or press conference in football, but, boy, I tell you what, watching an elite game is an elite game. That's what rowing the boat's all about, never giving up, never quitting. And what a game. What a game to watch. So our players can learn a lot from that one as well. So anyway, moving on. I do want to talk a little bit about Ball State. You got to give Coach New and his football team a lot of credit. They're really, really talented. They haven't really gave up a lot of points when you kind of look at their entire, body of work over the course of the last, 8 weeks. We were able to get 52 points, which is a huge positive. Being able to score 7 points and score on defense, which is a huge positive. Holding them to 20 points, again, the way you look at it, the way we started the game compared to how it ended, I was pleased with the second half performance from the defense and being able to hold them to 20 points. And then special teams, I thought we had a tale of two halves. First half wasn't as good as we wanted it to be. Second half, we responded. So, again, we still have not played in all three phases collectively our best football yet, and that's what's still out there. The curiosity and that carrot is out there to play our best football because we haven't done that just yet. This will be an incredible challenge for our football team. Kent State, coached by Coach Haynes, who I know very well. He's a great friend. They have one of the best defenses we'll face all year. And there's nothing by coincidence of how everybody they've played, they've kept them to low point totals. So we have to be way better than we ever have. We got to have an outstanding week of practice, which I know we will. But, we've got a lot of things to clean up as well on all three phases. So with that, open up for questions.
Coach, how do you feel about the back-to-back Tuesday games? Does that impact the routine at all?
I like it that it's back-to-back same day of the week game because, today is basically a Monday, and tomorrow we practice, which will be a Tuesday for us. But when you start comparing those days and saying that, I mean, you don't know what day of the week it is, right? So, which, again, you're in football terms, so it doesn't necessarily matter. But for us, I like being able to get back on the schedule. I'd like to get off the schedule as well. I like the 9 game. And then we have a 12-day, so I'll like that, and we'll prepare. I like anything they give us, to be honest with you. When you don't have a full bye week to really have, you've got to be able to adjust some things as well, which is fine. But I think it really kind of keeps everything fresh. There's always something new to look forward to, and this will be no different.
Without that bye week, too, how has that changed recruiting? I mean, that's usually a big week.
Yeah, we've actually done a great job of going out recruiting even during our Saturdays. So Friday nights before games, we were out, whether it's home or away. Our coaching staff's been out. When we get to the hotel, I really kind of take over our football team, right? I'm the one that stays with them. I'm the one that puts them to bed. I'm the one that does bed check. That's me, right? So that way our coaches can go out there and work. So I think that's been a philosophy. As we saw, there was no big bye week that we were going to have to adapt and adjust, and that was a way that we could do that.
Coach, speaking of that role that you play, you're a teacher, you're a salesman.
I'm not a salesman, Al.
Well, you sell the university when you're out recruiting. I like to think that would be a way to describe it. But of all those roles that you play, which ones do you think are the most important?
Of all the roles of a head coach?
Yes. Yeah, the teacher and the mentor and the father figure.
Yeah, I think just the word education. I just think the word education, Al, to be honest with you. Whatever you're teaching is very important at that moment. They're all important. One aspect of my job is not more important than the other part, in my opinion. They're all important. Just like we teach our players, you've got to be elite in every area of your life, your social life, your spiritual life, your football life, your family life, your academic life. That's all got to fit. You can't just be elite in one area and average in the rest and think you're going to become an elite person and an elite player. It's all got to fit. So the word education is what I do. It's what I do every single day to whoever I come in contact with, plus education for me. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly finding ways to be educated and find more creative ways to educate and stimulate other people. So as much as I educate and I stimulate other people and motivate and communicate, I have to be able to have that for myself too, to be able to continue to stem new things, to keep everything fresh as we keep moving forward.
Speaking of elite, obviously, Court,
Exactly.
another incredible day. Can you just comment on
Yeah, again, it's just direct correlation, like I said at the beginning of the year, of what type of person Corey Davis is, the adversity that he's been through, the ability to respond to that, not only respond to that, but to play at an elite level, an outstanding level, week in and week out. We knew going into that game that the game plan was going to favor Corey. And it was one of the first times all year we felt if they play how they've played in the past, which most teams show something, but when they play us, they play something a little bit different, right, to be able to handle Corey and some of the other weapons we have. They played true to exactly what they were able to do, okay, and in terms of coverage. Once we knew that, we knew it would be a big day for 84. But I told Corey, earlier in the year, or early in the week, I said, this is going to be a huge week for you. Huge week for you. Once the game plan was done, it's one of those things in the National Football League. You have your game plan, you give it to Vincent Jackson. Vincent Jackson looks at it, and he either has a big smile or he's like, hey, man, there's not that many passes on this sheet for me. You might want to get some more out here. But this was one that had a ton of opportunities from Corey. And it was the first time all year I told him, I said, this is going to be a huge day for you if you prepare and get yourself ready and are ready to have one of your best games you've ever had. And there it goes, 72 yards, 3 touchdowns. He left a lot of meat on the bone as well. I mean, he could have had 340, 350 yards receiving. But those are some of the things that, why was the score 28-10? Why was it at halftime that way? Why was it, because there was so many, we were quick strike offense. There was sometimes it was 1 play, sometimes it was 3 plays. We're a drive football team, put in 10 to 12 plays, put in the end zone, control the clock. That kind of went against our belief of what we did. We threw the ball a little bit even more in some instances than running the ball in terms of when it was still a very competitive game. But we're going to do what we have to do to win the football game. And the end of the half, those 2 possessions that we didn't get any points, again, that was on me. I was going. I wanted to go because 28-10, 18 points compared to 35-10, big difference when they are a running football team. If we can get one more score, now they're down 25, plus we get the ball starting the opening, the kick in the second half. Well, now all of a sudden they have to get completely out of their game plan. 28-10, they can stay in that, right? And then we blocked the field goal, which was tremendous for us. So there was a lot of positives, but Corey's just being Corey, and he's being the best version of Corey every single week, and it's a direct correlation of how hard he works. He's 30 to 40 minutes after every practice. I've told you that, and he just constantly keeps getting better and continues to do it with humility.
Coach, can you talk about the effect that those quick possessions, and then also, with Darius being Darius, in the beginning, what kind of effect that had on the defense?
Sure.
They're playing such a longer time, throughout the first half.
Yeah, I think when you saw in the second half, we didn't strike as quick, so we were able to control the ball on offense, get our running game, getting a running ground game going, and I think that helped our defense. You saw a direct correlation with our defense. But you got to give Ball State a lot of credit. Coach New's a phenomenal football coach. He's a really, really good person. He had his team ready, had his team motivated. Not only that, they had a really good scheme against what we were doing. So, again, it takes a while to adjust. I mean, they get paid to coach, too. We get paid to coach. There's adjustments you have to be able to make. We just got to make them sooner, and we got to be able to figure them out a little faster. But,
Is that a fatigue thing at all, do you think? Or, being out there for so long?
Well, anytime you're out there for, 16, 17 plays. That's what we do to people, right? And then we use that as an advantage. But
then they come right back.
I didn't see any.
Yeah,
I didn't see any difference of how we played. I didn't sit there and say, you know what, there's a lack of conditioning. I didn't see any of that. But what I did see was we were on the field way too long. Period. Right? Whether it's 9 plays or 12 plays or 13 plays, we just didn't get off the field on third down. But when we had 3rd and 1s and 4th downs, we were able to come through with that. But there were too many 15s, 16s, 12s. 9-yard runs coming out, and that's what got us in a bind. And one guy out of his gap. But what they were doing was a little bit different than what we were used to, which you got to give them a lot of credit. So once we got that, adjusted to, again, defense is a lot harder. Remember that defense is a lot harder because you don't know what's coming, right? And then once they run it, now you have to adjust to that. Al, last year or a few weeks ago, whatever it was, you said, hey, you should come out in the triple option. Well, think about if we came out in the triple option. How many adjustments a team would have to make? You know what I mean, right? So it's the same type of thing. We have things that people have to adjust for us. They have things they have to adjust. So same thing.
We talked about 84, and I know we're going to have Donnie here in a few minutes.
Yep.
Can you talk about the tight end position has been key, I think, from my perspective, watching the blocking. Can you talk about Donnie Hertzberger a little bit? Give us some ammunition.
Yeah, Battle Creek's finest, right? Battle Creek's finest. He was ranked one of, if not the best high school player ever to go through his high school, and it's well deserved. I mean, he is one of those non-glorious positions on our football team right now, And, and he's one of the most selfless players we have. I can talk about a lot of selfless guys, but this guy, it's not just not catching a pass, not being thrown to in your route. This guy has to physically dominate people every single play. He's like a glorified offensive lineman, and he embraces his role. He really is the spirit and the heart of this football team because he has the toughness, and he represents that of our football team. And we wouldn't be where we are without Donnie Ernsberger. I know that.
Jamari Bogan, sorry.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's going to be kind of day by day and week by week. It's just one of those things. He was healthy and then got hit on it, kind of twisted it a little bit again. So we'll see. But again, that's next guy in. Davon Tucker, Jarvion's running extremely hard and very well. And then you look at Davon, he'll be just fine. And then Fabian Johnson. So that's why you got a stable of running backs. That's what Jim Tressel always taught me. I told you guys that. And you can't have enough running backs.
Corey's, obviously amazing game. And you said there's a little bit of meat on the bone left. Can you talk about Zach's influence on that ratio as well, and the game that he had along with connecting with Corey?
Yeah, you look at Zach in the second half. So he went 10 of 12 in the second half. They have an incredible relationship. But again, there's nothing by coincidence. These two work after practice every single day. Most teams, the best players will be the first ones in there. They don't need to go out there and work. It's the young guys that need development. They find the smallest things to continue to get better at. And that's part of our job, to stimulate them and to bring up that curiosity of what you can actually get better at. And Corey Davis and Zach Terrell do that. And they do that an awful lot. And you can see that direct correlation. You can see that relationship. You can see the bond they have by how they play. And I think any quarterback and wide receiver duo that's very, very talented has that type of bond. And they have that. And there's an incredible amount of respect. There's an incredible amount of trust. That's huge when you have a relationship like that. Huge.
What was your reaction to the first CFP poll? Were there any surprises to you there? And notwithstanding your situation, is a 14 playoff is that right? Is that where it should land?
Well, I think we're still in the beginning stages of seeing how this all goes, right? I mean, we've been in the playoff system now, 2 years really, right? This is kind of, so when you start to think of it, we're still in the beginning stages of seeing what works, what doesn't, what issues and problems do occur. And I think when you looked at it in the past, you probably knew some of these things would occur. And you're never going to make everybody happy, right? You're never going to make anybody. You expand it to 6, 8, people are going to want it to be at 12, right? But what is the right way to do it? I'm a huge favor, and no matter what conference or group of 5, Power 5 you play in, I do believe that there should be a group of 5 guaranteed bid, no matter what it is. Okay, the highest ranked group of 5, no matter what, gets a shot to go in there, and it could just be one, whatever it is. I know that's probably not going to happen with 4, but if they expand that, now you get that Cinderella type season. Now you get that Hoosiers type feel that you can have what basketball has, that Cinderella story. You can have a wild card game, as baseball has a Game 7 right off the bat. You can have that. But then you cross into the gamut of, okay, you got championship games, now you got bowl games, plus you've got playoff games, and now all of a sudden you're playing an NFL 15, 16-game season. So I see both. But I think we're exactly where we should be right now. I have zero complaints about the playoff system the way it is now. I think as it evolves, just like everything, it changes. Overtime rules change, how everything changes in football. That's what I love about our game. We're constantly pushing it forward and seeing what's better for college football. And I think that's the big component right now. We're perfect for where we're at right now. I really believe that. I think 4 is perfect to see how it goes with the playoff. But as we go, I can see it and would like to see it expand.
Do you say that where we are right now, based on conference structures where they are and pending what may happen in the future, is that part of what you're taking?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the Power 5 have it right. It's going to be very hard for a group of 5 to enter that top 4. I understand that. I think it's going to have to be back-to-back consecutive undefeated type seasons to see a group of 5 team enter that top 4. But just remember, the BCS system, we had 0 shot to ever enter a national championship game. 0. Now, it might be a 1 or 2% chance or 3%, whatever it is, small, but there is an opportunity. And that's why I think it's exactly where it needs to be right now, because there is an opportunity for teams like that, the Boise's, the Houstons, the teams like that have proven that they can be at the forefront. But I think it's going to take back-to-back undefeated type seasons where you have scheduled some opponents, you beat a lot of Power 5 teams, and you've done it consecutively, which is very hard to do. But that's why I say now we have it right for at least right now. Group of 5 has a chance, but as we go, I'd like to see that group of 5 be able to have a little bit bigger of a chance as you go, or even a guaranteed bid if you continue to have that happen. So what else we got?
Coach, I asked Zach after the game, his
Great
reaction
question.
to being 23rd, and he said that me asking him was him finding out. So I'm curious if since then you've addressed it with the team at all, you've talked about it, and if so, what your message was about paying attention or not to that, or where you were at.
No, we really haven't paid much attention to it. We celebrated our win this morning in our team meeting against Ball State. That was it. We did embrace our past, which is the ranking, and embrace those things. I mean, one has a 17, one has a 23. I mean, that's all speculation, right? That's all speculation. Because how do you know that we are the 17th best team in the country or the 23rd best team in the country? We are us, and we want to continue to change our best. We want to be better this week than we were last week. We want to be better today than we were yesterday. It's very simple. But we are not going to ignore what our players are doing. This is a very special time. And I never want them to say, you know what, you never celebrated that. Because as you go through life, there's so many things people focus on that are so negative, that are just so negative. And most of your life's going to be what the problems are. It's going to be very hard to be able to celebrate what's really positive in your life. Now, you can't just sit there and gloat in it, and you can't sit there and stay in it, but you've got to acknowledge it. You've got to be able to sit there and say, okay, we know where we are. We've earned that right to say, okay, yeah, we are 9-0. That's great. But now that 9-0 is over. What did we learn from that 9-0? Let's talk about all the things we've learned up to 9-0, which is different than 6-0, which was different than 4-0. What have we learned up to this point, and how are we going to move forward so we can now be 1-0, right? So we can learn all of those things we've had in those 9 games that we've won, right? Close, not close, turnovers, no turnovers, whatever it is. What can we now learn that can get us to 1-0 from our past to create our future? That's what we continue to drive forward. The rankings don't matter to me. The number doesn't matter to me. The talk on the outside doesn't matter to me. My job is to stem curiosity every day to guys like Donnie and Zach and Corey and Robert Spillane and Derek Mitchell of how we can continue to grow higher. How can we be better as a football team today? And that's all our focus. Because other than that, we don't vote. We don't vote on those things. We think we're the best Western Michigan football team we can possibly be at this moment. So that's our ranking. How's that? But we have to be able to continue to play elite. I think we proved this past week, though, elite teams find ways of winning. It's not always going to be perfect. I'm just upset as everybody else for giving up 300 yards rushing, right? But when you look at the stats, the kid had 140-some in the first half. He had 16 in the second half. Right? You're able to make adjustments. But people are going – we're going to get everybody's best shot from this point forward. Everybody's. It doesn't matter their record. It doesn't matter what they've done against other teams. We are a different entity now. So when people see what we're ranked, it's another opportunity for a coach to get them a lot more motivated, get them to play better than they ever have. All or nothing, great opportunity. We are everybody's opportunity now, right, to show the nation. So we've been there. I used to use that as motivation, right, that a team wasn't very good. But, hey, look, guys, you got nothing to lose. I don't say we got nothing to lose anymore. Right? I don't say that anymore, but I did say it at one point. So we've been on the other side of that motivation as well. But again, embracing your past to create your future, that's part of what we've always done.
How much of the guys enjoy that, BJ? Even driving in the parking lot on Tuesday, you run into the people from Ball State and say, oh, you're here to see the biggest upset in the MAC this year. You're here to see that. The responsibility you talk about, how much are the guys enjoying the fact that everybody has put them in that position?
Yeah, I think you probably have to ask them a little bit. I will say this is that, we've been at both, or they've seen both if they're in our program, right? 0-8 and 8-0. You've seen both spectrums. One you'd rather be, right? Because it's better to be 8-0 than 0-8. However, it's a lot harder to be that, right? And now 9-0. That's a lot harder to be. And every time you win, it gets harder and harder and harder. So the price tag goes up. So paying the price has to go up. And that's hard for young people because as you continue to go, you sit there and go, okay, well, this worked last time. Maybe it'll work this time. It's not going to work this time. And I think that's the challenge they have, that we want them to enjoy it, but we want them to enjoy it in a very controlled environment to continue to stay focused, but not ignore the outside noise, but also know how to respond to the outside noise because you're going to hear it anyway. Telling our players ignore what's out there is impossible to do as a head football coach. And I would never give advice to do that, ever. Because, again, I gave the analogy the other day. If you don't tell your daughter she's lovely every single day, some other guy will. Same thing, right? If we don't tell our players how elite they are and what they're doing is very special and how to be able to have a perspective of that and a response to that, then somebody else is going to teach them how to do it. So we've got to be able to educate. Goes back to you, Al, comes full circle. We got to be able to educate them how to do that and what these feelings are like. And it's okay to have the feelings you have. Let us help you direct those.
Coach, with the pollsters and the Boise State thing going on, and knowing that the top-ranked conference champion for the group of 5 will get an opportunity to play, you know, in those 6 games in New Year's Day, is there part of your mindset to make statements in any of these games? Like, we won by 32 points over Ball State. We were favored by 18 by the Las Vegas.
We're going to play the game for 60 minutes, Al.
Okay.
We're going to play the game for 60 minutes. You've been a part of me. We went victory on the last play. We do that a lot if we're up. We're going to do everything we can to win the football game, period. I'm not into points. I'm not into we have to do this or that. Only thing I did find out was Corey Davis was 5 yards short of a record. We got him a record. Why? He deserves it. So we threw him a hitch route. That was it. Then we pulled him out of the game because he deserves that. I believe he deserves that. And that's wonderful attention for Western Michigan University as we're moving forward. But he could have had 380 yards, right? But again, my point is that we're going to do everything we can. I don't look at spreads before games, Al. I don't. You tell me half the time what spreads are. I have no idea, right? But I do know that we're everybody's opportunity.
What is Kent State's defense? What kind of problems do they present?
A lot. A lot. They're very talented. Their defensive front seven is probably the top 3 we faced the entire year. They've got an all-conference first-team defensive end, 51. He plays extremely hard. They've got 2 really heavy inside guys, very similar to Georgia Southern. Very long, very aggressive with their hands. And they got another pass rusher on the other side that's phenomenal. Linebackers are big and stout, and their secondary can cover. They play in a lot of man. Paul Haynes, I worked with him at Ohio State. He was a very aggressive secondary coach back then. He's still aggressive. He wants his corners to cover. He wants his corners to blitz. He wants his corners to hit. And that's the way he's always had. His secondary's been that way. He's a very high-energy guy that way. Done a phenomenal job building that defense. But again, that's an issue that we're going to have. They stun up front and twist and do a lot of things. And again, they present a lot of challenges. And there's not many people that scored a lot of points on them either. Even the Penn State game. I mean, they've held people in check pretty good.
Coach, probably one of the biggest accolades that happened this week is Zach Terrell was named the National Football Foundation Scholar Athlete and was just named an hour ago Warfel Trophy semifinalist. Can you talk about what that means for the program?
Yep, all deserved, 100%. I mean, Zach Terrell is one of the best football players I've ever coached, one of the best people I've ever coached, and one of the best people I've ever been around. You guys all know that. I'm not private about that. I'm very public about it. Him and I's relationships continue to grow over the years. We've been through a lot together. And I thought Coach Chirac has done a tremendous job on the field to get him where he needs to be as a player. I mean, he's thrown I don't know how many touchdowns to 1 interception. I mean, it's incredible. There's a reason why we lead the country in the turnover margin. It's because of Zach Terrell. And he is as Robin Hook says, he is the stick that stirs the drink. I mean, that's everything he does. And on the field, off the field, he's one of those people, going back to even Al's question, he's elite in his personal life, right? He's got an elite fiance. He's got an elite perspective. He's always doing all the right things, always, not some of the time. He's very, 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 very committed to his faith, and he's very public about that. He's out there changing lives, serving and giving. He's a 3.5 GPA in finance, so you're talking about a student athlete. I mean, he's going to have his master's degree by the time he leaves here, and he's an outstanding football player. You talk about him as a son and person going to Haiti and person going to Dominican Republic and Children's Hospital, which he goes every single week with me. I mean, it is just he's just everything that you want in a human being. And he deserves the Warfel Trophy, in my opinion. He deserves the NFF Foundation trophy. And he is just a complete student athlete. He's exactly what the NCAA is about. He's exactly what college football is about. And I'm just glad we can have that represented here at Western Michigan.
Thanks, Coach.
You got it. Row the boat.